Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Taylor School District regularly scheduled board meeting of November 6th, 2024, where our mission statement is to educate, engage, and empower those we serve. And our vision statement is that we will be the innovative destination district where all succeed. This meeting is called to order at 6:01 p.m. Ms. Black is here. Mr. Heath,
Here.
Mr. Morris,
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Schufelt.
Here.
Mr. Wright is absent. We have 5 in attendance. Everyone would please stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on the agenda tonight, there are board and discussion items. Are there any revisions of the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Heath. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas isn't here. Mrs. Schufelt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright isn't here. Ms. Black is a yes. That carries 5-0. Number 4 on the agenda, scheduled reports. Our first one up, the 2023-2024 Taylor and Morgan Annual Audit Report. Michael McKenzie, Taylor and Morgan Partners.
Good evening. My name is Mike McKenzie. I am with Taylor and Morgan. We have a brief PowerPoint presentation to go over the financials. Everyone has a printed copy. We also have PDFs if printed things are not for you. Read through it. If you have questions that I'm not going to cover because there's many pages that are not reflective in here, reach out to me. The business office knows how to get a hold of me. Please ask questions. So the 2023-2024 financial statements. Most important part is the opinion. We issued an unmodified opinion. That's the best you could possibly do. It is basically the standard. We would not be issuing a report that didn't have one, but that's what we want. We audit you guys under generally accepted auditing standards and then governmental auditing standards because you are a local government. The biggest thing that we always pay attention to is enrollment. The vast majority of the money you get is reflective of kids coming in and out. You know, for many years, I should drag this out longer, but you guys had been kind of declining. You picked some up. That's great because, next slide. The state foundation allowance is how you get a lot of your money, and it's finally starting to go up. Some schools broke $10,000 this past year, which is great. As I'm sure you're all aware, all the fun federal programs are over. There's no more ESSER money. You're probably not going to see anything fun like that. So this is where most of your funding is going to come from, which is how it was pre-COVID. And we're just going back to that. So in terms of where your money came from, like I said, the vast majority, 45% comes from that foundation allowance of money to do with whatever you please. There's a piece of that pie that is also property taxes. You know, the state kind of sets a standard. Whatever you collect in property taxes kind of gets taken out of your state aid piece. Works the same for everyone. And then you have the various restricted state grants, federal grants, things like that. But for the most part, you're looking at state money. So where we spend our money, you guys are in the business of employing people to teach kids. 85% goes to salaries and benefits. That number has creeped up from what was 75% for like everyone forever. And everyone's seeing it go up mostly because of the retirement rates and things like that. There, you know, for every dollar of payroll you spend, 35 cents goes to pensions. That's a lot of money. Everything else is very much ancillary to your payroll. Next one. So where do we land? General fund, since COVID, you guys have been steadily adding to fund balance. That was, I believe, a planned thing of, there were programs that allowed you to supplant that. Previously, that was a big no-no. So we have built up a war chest of money that will hopefully keep us going for a time being. So we underspent what we received, which is great. Which has allowed us to build up this really nice, healthy fund balance. Next one. How we like to kind of like look at this in a reasonable way is what does this mean compared to other schools? So we can only look at a year ago with what the state provides us, but fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, most schools had 22%, which is enough money to fund your operations for 40 days. You guys were at 38, 39%. So you had about 70 days of cash or your resources on hand to spend your bills. It's like someone who has a $75,000 income having 30 grand in their savings account, which is a substantial amount of money for someone making $75,000. The next one. Biggest number that you really see on your balance sheet there is due from other governments. Your year end is in June. State aid rolls through the next 2 months. You have collections, things like that. So basically the year ends, but it's not really over. And we collect back this money. It's a substantial, $20 million, a lot of money that kind of floats out there, but in line with your operations, in line with everything that you do, we're not dragging things out further. Nothing to be worried about, just a really big number. Up to the next one. Food service is the thing we always keep fairly close eye on, just because you will get nasty grams from the state if you are keeping too much fund balance, things like that. You guys were, budgeting right where you need to be. You guys have always been pretty good on that one. You'll find out from the state very quickly if you're not spending your money appropriately there. Next one. You guys run your special education and your restricted things in separate funds. So what we do is kind of keep track of every year of like, what are you bringing in on special ed? What are you spending out? What's kind of going back and forth? This year, you guys were very close. I think it was in the order of like $100,000 instead of $500,000 that went back into the general fund with the special ed. Big picture stuff. Go pop over to the next one. The retirement rate. Like I was saying, the huge amount of your payroll burden, the net was 31% is going to this unfunded MIPSers liability. They still owe a bunch of money this year. I mean, if anyone's actually looking year over year, great for you. The other post-employment health benefit, like the health insurance part, is overfunded now because they are contractually obligated to put this money in this bucket, and this money in that bucket, and they put too much money in that bucket, but they can't do anything with it yet. I think they're still attempting to figure out how they're going to even these things up. We have a positive number instead of a liability, not anything that's really going to be meaningful because you have no control over any of these things. If you look at the front of your financial statements, you have a huge liability, hundreds of millions of dollars. That is your portion of what the state owes to all the retirees. You're never going to pay the money. You pay it in that little 30 cents per dollar thing, but you have to show it on your financial statements. It just makes it all look confusing. I don't understand why they did it, but them's the rules. And so that's what we have to do. And really, this is a big problem because we pop over to the next slide. Our retired teachers are kind of coasting out, and the number of teachers since kind of COVID started is angling down. So you have far fewer people. I mean, this is the problem with every pension that exists at this point. You have far fewer people putting money into the system than taking money out. The number of people taking money out isn't coming down at all. Don't expect it to come down anytime soon. And this is why you spend 30 cents on every dollar on this thing. And what the real rub is, I was talking earlier about, the state foundation allowance going up. They give you a ton of money every year to turn around and hand it back to them. They give you a huge MIPSers, one-time credits and stabilization funds, all this money, billions of dollars that could be used to do other things that really just gets handed to you. You recognize it, you turn around and write a check about 5 days later to give it back to you. It just is, it's like I said, it's this thing you don't have any control over, but it has a huge impact on your financials. And it makes doing a real analysis of what you have going on in terms of expenses and revenues and liabilities, it makes it feel weird because there's all these things that you have no control over. It's not your spending. But it's what we got to show. Cool. Next one. No real big accounting changes this year. We adopted a accounting changes and error correction, which is not terribly relevant. You guys didn't do anything. If we have to make changes, they've just changed the way in which we do it, but we didn't. So not a huge deal. I think that's all I've got unless there are questions. There are no big cool upcoming GASB announcements. Fairly standard year. You know, I thought everything went really well. Yeah, you know, we've talked about before, you know, the way that you guys spend the ESSER money, you've built up fund balance. Now you have to figure out how you're going to live in that ESSER-free world. I don't see any more federal money coming down the pipeline to you. You know, the state has been doing very small targeted grants, and you guys have been, I mean, we have a ton of little, they just give you money sometimes. You don't even know what it's for. That is where most of the funding is coming at this point. I don't see a lot of new stuff coming. I believe, yeah, I mean, that's really it. I don't know of any new big programs that are happening. So does anyone have any questions about the audit process, anything like that?
No questions, anybody? Edwina, do you have anything to throw on?
Like he said, we have a lot of restricted grant money that we just have to figure out how to implement and support, you know, the programs of the school district, which is a wonderful thing.
And
It's grant money.
It's every school in this. Everyone's getting money with then being handed the problem of, okay, now figure out how to spend it. Like at risk has been a problem for years with a lot of schools where they're carrying millions of dollars, where they're giving you money. So every month they give you $500,000 in at risk. That's probably wildly wrong for you. But if you don't spend it, like you still got it and you don't give it back, you just kind of like carry it forward in this number forever. And schools are very consistent. I can spend exactly this much money, and the state completely disregards that and just says, well, I'm going to give you more, but you can't just spend more because it's so narrow as to what you can do with it. So it's a problem because it does build up your fund balance. You have money, it's in your fund balance, it's in that number we talked about, but you can't just spend it on whatever you want. So keeping an eye on that stuff, making sure that if they're giving it to you, you're spending it down. Great. You know, concerns for next year, very minimal. We're going back to the normal federal programs where everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to do. There's no question as to what Title I money is or isn't, or Title II, or any of these other things. Child nutrition is going to continue being what it is. No surprises. Hopefully, nice, easy audits after COVID. I can't wait.
So do we. We hope this nice, easy audit continues for years to come.
Right. Yes, I would like no more crazy federal programs where they give people millions of dollars to say, we don't know how you should spend it. You figure out how you should spend it. And then I have to come in and figure out if you did it right. Yeah, it's not fun. So yeah, if anyone comes up with questions, my contact information is in there. Dr. Hill has my contact information. Michael has my contact information. Please contact me if you have questions about stuff. I'm more than happy always to talk with you guys about whatever is going on. Okay?
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Yep. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Our next scheduled report is workers' comp presentation. Peter Clark, our attorney from Wisniewski, Kurtz, Stamler, and McCubry.
Whoever wants to go first.
Do we have any? Or they have to.
And then, do we have a way of getting Mia up so we can hear what she's saying?
Oh.
Is she?
Is she online?
Zoom.
Yeah, she's on the Zoom.
She log in?
Does she need to raise her hand?
I believe she's in already. Let's see.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Awesome, yeah.
Perfect.
So thank you all for the opportunity to come out tonight. Edwina had asked us to come and talk to you a little bit about our work comp program and the longstanding relationship, Taylor Schools and Gallagher, along with me, with Brian Clark. We're kind of the main contacts for anything on the brokerage side. Mia from our third-party administrator, Gallagher Bassett, is on the line, and we have Hubert Clark here as well. So we appreciate the opportunity. So I'm going to start just by giving a quick overview of kind of what workers' comp is. I'll keep it high level so as not to put anyone to sleep. Last night watching the results, so it was pretty entertaining, I'll tell you that. So along with our program, there's a brokerage aspect. We place coverage for the school district. Brian will touch on that, but work comp really is just feedback. Is that better? So I want to touch on just a few things. Edwina had given us a kind of some bullet points. How do they qualify? So how does one qualify? You qualify for workers' comp by having an injury that arises in and out of the course and scope of their duties. So there has to be a causal relationship to how they were injured, and there also has to be in the course and scope of their duties. That can be, it's fairly broadly defined, but the work comp is kind of governed by the statute, the state of Michigan. It's been around since 1912. So before that, injured workers could go back and sue their employer. Became kind of hard to recover, kind of clunky through the legal system. So they cleaned it up. So now it's really a no-fault system, similar to auto in a way. And in exchange for that, the employee only gets a portion of their wage. So they have a limited amount they can collect. Usually it's 67%, and it's an average weekly wage, kind of the top 39. It's an average of 39 or 52 weeks worked. Workers' comp really covers 4 components. It covers wage loss, medical benefits, rehabilitation, and death benefits, if that is the case, unfortunately. We don't see it a lot in schools, thankfully, but we've had a few. If it ever happens here at Taylor, just so you know, or any of your related school districts, you do have to report it to OSHA as well. You have 8 days to report that. They get pretty upset. Even if it's not a work-related injury, any deaths on campus is always good to keep the good folks at OSHA involved. Just a little sidebar. Couple other quick things. When it comes to wages, there's a schedule for how they get paid. So days 1 to 7, typically they call it a waiting period. On the 8th day, their wage benefits begin. If it goes beyond 14 days, it's an automatic payment. Employees continue to get paid. The TPA will kind of come up with reserves, and they're going to touch on that. I think that's a big part of the presentation today. As far as benefits go, benefits under work comp in Michigan are for life. So if there's deemed to be an injury at the workplace, it's for life. A couple benefits that we have as an employer, or you guys have as an employer, you can choose and direct their care for the first 28 days. Typically that's done at a local clinic, an occupational health clinic. A lot of benefits to that as far as directing care, making sure they're getting appropriate treatment for their injury so we can get them back to work. Ultimately, we want to get employees back to work. That's the big goal here. We can direct that for 28 days. After 28 days, they can choose to go elsewhere, but it doesn't always get that place, but occasionally we see it. When it comes to financing, there's typically 2 ways we see it in public ed. I've been in public ed for 20 years now. We usually see first dollar programs or a self-insured type program. And you guys are currently in the self-insurance program. Brian's going to touch on how that works. And a couple of things I just wanted to touch on. Anytime I give a presentation on like a work comp 101 to people who are new to schools or new to the industry, there's 4 things that really I encourage employers to focus on. So the first being promptly report your claims. So make sure there's a process in place so employees know that if they're injured on a job, they have to report their claim. Insurance uses the terms promptly. It's an interesting kind of generic term, but it's within a reasonable amount of time. The longer a claim goes on, the worse they typically get. So in my experience, you know, we track lag time reporting, we call it, so we can let you know if your employees or if you guys as an employer are reporting in a timely fashion. So we want to make sure we have that. Prompt reporting of claims kind of delays a chain reaction. The longer a claim goes, typically the worse the injury gets, the greater the cost to the district. And if, especially when we're self-insured, we want to make sure we avoid those higher costs. There are statistics out there. If a claim goes unreported, longer than 4 weeks, that cost is going to go up 45%. Significant. So the numbers bear it out. The other big 3 success factors is pick a clinic that you can work with. Understand, have a relationship with them. If you guys have issues as you go along this endeavor with your clinic, reach out. Let us know, let GB know. We'll make sure we get that helped out. The other last 2 are kind of relevant to the latter part of the discussion here. The return to work program. If an employer can start off with a return to work program to bring employees back, I think we all look at it as, well, why would I pay an employee to come back if he's already getting wages? Really makes them feel included, makes the transition back a lot easier. Doesn't have to be to their original job. They could come and maybe they could sort papers for the board meetings. I don't know. We've had hall monitors. We have famous stories of, you know, injured employees, especially like during COVID and, you know, before we all had all this security, but we'd have big green lounge chairs set up in the lobby, just kind of as a security checkpoint. So there's a lot of things people can do, you know, picking up paper clips. I don't know. We have a lot of jobs we can do, answering phones, things like that. I kind of make light of it because you get skeptical a little bit in the work comp world, but, and the last thing is communication. So when I say communication, it's typically communication between the employer, the employee, the employer, the TPA, and the employer and our legal counsel. Really is important, really helps, makes things go smoothly, makes everyone feel involved, and make sure there's no misunderstandings. Because again, we want to get people back to work. So that's kind of my quick 101. It's an hour presentation in like 6 minutes. So feel free to ask any questions as we go. So Brian.
Thank you, Travis. So my name is Brian Pierce and I work for Gallagher with Travis on the brokerage side. So we actually help place the insurance for the workers' compensation. Would you mind advancing the slides, please? Thank you. So to kind of jump off of Travis's point, we'll talk a little bit about who the parties are involved, who we are. We'll talk a little bit about your program, how the premium is calculated via payroll. We'll talk about the coverage structure and kind of what the actual limits look like for your program. And then GB will jump in and talk a little bit about claim reserving. And then Peter was going to talk a little bit about some timeliness and penalties for late reporting. So up top, Arthur J. Gallagher, that's Travis and I. We are the broker. We place the coverage on your behalf. The next group there is Gallagher Bassett. That's a different division of Gallagher, and they're your TPA. So they handle the claims on your behalf. And then the last group there is your defense attorney for defending the district for the work comp claims. There's really 2 main parts to a workers' compensation policy. There's a workers' compensation part, so that's part A, and that's exactly what we think about, injured workers on the job. And then there's another portion, part B, which is called employer's liability. That employer's liability is for cases where we are grossly negligent. The kind of example that comes to mind immediately is if we had maybe a building, a vacant building, and there were all the conditions that are prevalent in vacant buildings, like mold and asbestos and things like that. If we knew about the condition of that building and we sent an employee in anyway, and we didn't give them the proper PPE and they got injured, that's a textbook employer's liability claim. So 2 separate parts of the workers' compensation policy. The states included here are Michigan, and then your program has a $400,000 self-insured retention. So we talk about your policy being self-insured as opposed to a first dollar program. And we say that, but it's really protected self-insurance. So you are responsible for the first $400,000 of each and every claim. And then after that, it jumps into our limits with the 2 insurance companies on the program. we talked a little bit about kind of how the policy is structured, but how it's priced is based on payroll. So payroll, and then it's broken out into class codes. And class codes are determined kind of by the risk level of each kind of category. So the bulk of your payroll is in the professional class code that has the lowest rate. I'm sorry, clerical has the lowest rate, but professional is also a very low rate. And then kind of in risk level, people like your garage employees or your janitorial, those folks are going to have a little bit higher rate per $100 of payroll. So that's kind of how the premium is calculated. And then this is how your coverage is actually structured graphically. So on the left side is your workers' compensation piece. And like we said, you are responsible for the first $400,000 of each and every claim. And then the gray insurance company comes in and they provide the next $200,000 in limit. And then Bridge Excess Solutions comes in and provides the additional limit on top of that. And to Travis's point, the workers' compensation coverage is statutory in the state, so set by the state. And then the other piece of this is that employer's liability. So you're responsible for the first $400,000. Then Gray comes in with the next $200,000, followed by Bridge for the next $1 million. And then that box over on the right, the green box, is called your loss fund. So you don't fund your loss fund directly, but you can't spend more than $2.9 million in claims in a given year through that self-insured retention. So it would have to be a catastrophic year, really, really bad year, but there is a stop loss in this program to stop, a really, really bad situation from occurring. And with that, I will turn it over to Mia. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions regarding the coverage that you have? Okay, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I muted myself, not realizing I couldn't unmute myself again. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for having me. As Travis and Brian have kindly introduced me, my name is Mia Makis, and I am the Client Service Manager within Gallagher Bassett for Taylor School District. I also have the pleasure of working with Dr. Hill and Taylor on the liability and property program through the Maisel pool. Apologize, I'm not there to be in person tonight. I'm physically located in Columbus, Ohio, but did have the opportunity to visit on site for our claim review this past August. So my first slide here is just some of our shared objectives. Here at Gallagher Bassett, as your third-party administrator, our goal is to partner with you and your employees to create a safe work environment and to minimize the impact of all injuries by treating your employees with respect, empathy, and ensuring that they receive excellent and timely care. With all that in mind, doing it in also the most cost-effective way possible. If you want to go to the next slide, Brian. Thank you. So this slide here, I wanted to discuss reserves tonight. What are reserves? So reserves, when a claim comes in, our adjusters or resolution managers, as we call them, will assess the injury for an estimated total cost. To do this, we utilize the diagnosis, we assess current treatment guidelines, as well as lean on the wealth of experience from our claims team. Holly Roblock, who Brian had mentioned earlier, is our designated adjuster for Taylor. She has over 9 years of claims handling experience. Her supervisor, Tammy Wilshan, has over 40 years of claims experience. And Karen Hissong, who's also on the line tonight. I don't know if it'd be possible to unmute her as well. Sorry, Karen, to put you on the spot. But she's our branch manager, who I believe also has just as much experience as Tammy, and has been on the Taylor account since you came to Gallagher Bassett. And when we estimate our reserves as best as we can from the receipt of the claim, and then we continue to adjust the reserves throughout the life of the claim. On the net, or Brian, then if you click through, the reserves are divided into 3 buckets. Thanks, Brian. The first one being medical, which is pretty straightforward. So cost of all medical care or estimated cost. Next bucket would be compensation. So this would be any cost associated with paying wages to the employee, either weekly wages, state awards, settlements, etc. And the last bucket is expense. So this will cover anything that's left over, like legal bills, index searches, surveillance, social media searches, etc. The next slide, just to give an idea of how the reserves are continuously worked through. So the timeline, initial reserves are set within 30 days of receipt of the claim. Our supervisors review the reserves every 90 days for accuracy. And in addition to the human touch, we have software which utilizes specific state and injury type algorithms. They'll go through, review the reserves, through our IT. And then if there are any questions or concerns, there's an alert sent to the file if the reserves are low. And then our resolution managers or adjusters take responsibility for verifying that the reserves stay current and accurate. And then Gallagher Bassett also does a random annual audit to help ensure accuracy as well. So today you'll notice the theme I'm kind of going with is the reserves. So we have some suggestions today to help streamline the claims process for Taylor to reduce time and add value to the overall partnership and process for Taylor schools and Gallagher Bassett. So our current reserve structure allots for Dr. Hill to have $400 of reserve authority on medical only claims and $10,000 of reserve authority for lost time claims. And then any reserve increases above this level have to be approved by the board based on the board schedule. The average medical bill for Taylor for the last program year for 7/1/23 through 6/30/24 was about $745. So most of the time this is not an issue. However, we have had a few hiccups that I'd like to discuss and make the board aware of any potential delays. And Peter and I can kind of tag team too, as well as Karen, any state penalties that could potentially happen with the way the reserves authority are currently set. So the way, any questions so far?
No, I don't see anything.
Perfect. So what I did here, so this was a bill that actually came through for Taylor. So on the left-hand side, that's kind of our best practices and the way that most clients have the reserve authority set up. So that's somewhat of an ideal way for the claim and the reserving process to flow through. And then on the right-hand side, I have what happened with this particular bill through Taylor, just trying between our process and then the school board process, just to give an idea of potential penalties and a better way to flow. So you can see we received the bill originally on 8/6/2024. So in Michigan, we have 30 days. It's a pretty strict timeline to get the medical bills paid. So this bill came in for a surgery. It was $115,000, was received via mail on 8/6. By the time it got into the hands, got scanned into the system, got approved by the adjuster, because the adjuster has to look at it and say, yes, this is related to the claim and a reasonable treatment. It got over to the bill review reduction on 8/12/24. So in an ideal scenario, at the time, the adjuster would email the client or email Taylor with a reserve rationale saying, hey, we got this large bill. It's a reasonable surgery. Here's what I anticipate the claim's going to cost. And then the reserves post on the file. What happened on this particular claim is Holly had sent out an email with the reserve rationale, and there was an agreement for a partial approval for $25K for the reserves at the 8/21 board meeting or somewhere associated in there. The partial approvals, unfortunately, don't really help us. They kind of leave us in the same spot. The medical bills for workers' comp can't really be adjusted or negotiated. The money's due. So we were kind of in the same spot there with the additional email traffic on our end as well as Taylor's. So as it progressed, and it went through the bill process. So the bill process can be pretty rigorous. There's 4 layers to it. To give an idea, it starts with we get the bill, we reduce it to the state fee schedule to make sure there's that. And then they get all the way down into the details of like For example, for that surgery, hey, you charged us for 10 sponges, but I think that you only needed to use 5 for that surgery. So we're only going to pay you for 5. So in that process, the bill got reduced to the $48,000 roughly, and then went back to the adjuster's desk on 9/3. So with our 30-day timeline, this payment is going to be due by 9/6 because we got it on 8/6. So if we had gone through the traditional reserving method, the reserves would have already been on the file. The bill's going to come in, no problem. It's going to automatically process and pay. Because we only had that partial approval and we had to wait the additional 2 weeks till the next board meeting on the 4th, and the adjuster only getting it on the 3rd, there was very little time to turn it around for the adjuster to review it properly, to get it over to Edwina. And we could have potentially missed the payment time, which there'll be a 3% fee of the medical bill that the medical provider can pursue. So in this particular real life scenario, Taylor would get hit with roughly a $1,400 late fee should the provider decide to pursue it. And then there's also the cost repercussions, a reputation with providers for late payments, upset claimants, and just other things that happen when we pay bills late, which we don't want to do. Any questions on the scenario or what happened here?
I see none.
Perfect. If we move on to the next one, just as an overall, I pulled the data from our last program year for that last year. So our total medical payments that were made by Taylor were $254,893 roughly. So if we had this delay with paying because of the reserve issue, you could potentially be looking at roughly like a $7,500 penalty or fees each year. So with that, I really appreciate everyone's time. And what I'd like to ask, kind of my point in showing all this, is if the board could consider potentially giving Dr. Hill additional authority on reserves, or if we can get an overall increase on authority from the board, or having some sort of outlet if we need to, in an emergency, increase the reserves. I understand the concern with cost control. We're ultimately using your dollars. And for Taylor, I recognize this is tax dollars. You have a community to answer to. And as your partner here at GB, our goal is to always be transparent. So we can provide reports at any time, giving an overall view into the program. We're always a phone call away. We are ultimately stewards of your money. So, and we take pride in this. And if there would be any way to kind of shift or make any changes, I think it would ultimately benefit both Taylor and Gallagher Bassett. And I don't know, Karen, do you have anything you want to add, or you think? Looks like she's muted still. Oh, Karen, she's muted. Oh, there we go. Hey, Karen.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. No, actually, your presentation was spot on. So I think we pretty much hit everything. Like you had said that, what we're used to is just having, the reserves on the file so that they're there when the bill comes through and there is no delay. So that is the ultimate goal, like Mia indicated.
Thank you, Karen. And this last slide here, just because I didn't like how much of a lag there was with receiving the bill and bill review, although that is typical, I just threw in, as it is so intense, the bill review process had a net savings for Taylor last year of roughly $380,000. That would be as opposed if we just paid every bill that came in. So just to give an idea of the intricacies with that and the benefit. Any questions for me?
I see none.
Perfect. And I think, Peter, if you're ready, pass it on over.
Yeah, hi everyone. This slide is about the penalties, and I think Mia covered it largely already. The 3% that you can get dinged by a provider for not paying a medical bill in time. It can add up, and then the $50 a day for failing to pay on time to a claimant, up to $1,500 for a medical bill, or for wage loss. But I think more important than that is, and Mia touched on this too, is, if you got a compensable claim and you've got an injured worker, you want them taken care of. You want them to receive the benefits in a timely fashion. So you want to make sure that the money is there to get that to them. And, yeah, it'll upset a claimant if it's not there and you don't want that. But, from my perspective and, as a defense attorney, you're going to chase them to an attorney and then they're going to initiate litigation over something that doesn't need to be litigated, which is going to cost you. And I think, the slide on that 3% was $7,000. You get into litigation over something that doesn't need to, and I've got to show up to court on a compensable thing, it can outpace that. So, those are very important consideration when considering how you are going to, what kind of authority you are going to give to Dr. Hill and in turn to Gallagher Bassett to adjust these claims. And, they're experts and that's what you hire them to do. And, I've got experience with a number of different third-party administrators and, they're excellent. So you got to give them what they need to do their job. Is what I would say.
I have a question.
Yes.
Based on the slide that she said that they got the bill on the 6th, the email was sent on the 12th. Our board meeting was the 25th and the bill came in at 1:15, but was reduced to 48. So they wanted us to approve 115,000. And originally it was reduced to 48. So what happens with that other money? Like
Well,
that difference?
It stays in reserves, and they're probably reasonably anticipating, and I'm not familiar with that claim per se. I'm going to speak on behalf of Karen and Mia.
Yeah.
That they're anticipating that there's going to be some more costs, that this person's probably going to need more treatment. They're going to be off work and there's going to be exposure there for wage loss benefits. And that's why that reserve is there. They're not squandering your money away. It needs to be there to handle a claim. And sometimes claims can be over, they can be adjusted over time, but it's important because you don't know their crystal ball is a little, cloudy
Yeah.
maybe as far as what the future may.
There seemed to have been a delay getting the information to us, and I know in a lot of our meetings, our concern with the claims that Dr. Hill brings to us is that there's not enough information for us to approve or deny, and so that's where the delay comes from us, is because we as board members want to know why. Why are we doing this? Like, what happened? And the information that she gets from workers' comp gives us minimal information. Oh, this girl needs X amount of dollars. Okay, well, why? Like, what happened? And we're not just gonna give hundreds of thousands of dollars when we don't know what happened. So we asked her to go back and we need more information for us to approve this amount of money. And I'm not saying it was that particular claim, but it might have been a different one. And so on our perspective, I mean, I'm not gonna give out hundreds of thousands of dollars or approve hundreds of thousands of dollars with just because an email came through that said, that's what they said. Well,
Sure. Well, if I may,
some detail to it.
we could also, oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I say that's great. That's why I'm glad we're all communicating, because we can put a form together if you want, or I don't know if you want to work with Dr. Hill, or we can send one over that is like a template if you let us know exactly what you need. I also think it's important to notate that the reserves aren't necessarily dollars that are spent. So they are worst case scenario, as you said. Like, it's not like we're asking for 115 and immediately putting out 115. That's like with the bill review and everything else that's going out. So it's not necessarily cutting a check per se. It's reserving for the lifetime of the claim. But I understand the concern. But if there is a specific form, and then I think it's also important, the best way to, because there are things that pop up too. So we have to, like, if we get something the day before a board meeting and say there's not enough time for us to go back, because sometimes we need to go back to the medical provider and say, hey, we need more information from you. The timeline is just making it difficult. But I understand. So would it help if there was a template that could be approved by the board, or
I did Holly a template of what I would need to take to the board for reserve already. So when I realized the board wanted more information, I gave a template to Holly. So whenever she requests funding, I asked her for specific things. So we already did that.
Well, and I think I don't know. I think too, we just want to gain trust, because we would not throw out numbers. I mean, this is what we do, right? This is our job. We want to take the work off your plate, not add more. So I understand the review, but we certainly wouldn't be throwing out numbers that we don't feel are accurate. And I can pull some data too, at least in prior years. Because before too, because my understanding, because I'm somewhat new to the program, is it used to function with authority at a lower level, and then it recently switched to the board. So I'm wondering, was there a particular claim, or was there a particular financial that didn't line up? I'm wondering how, if you have the information on the claims, how can we help, or what more can we provide?
So with new administration, I like to be transparent. And we have board policies that say that, the superintendent, CFO can't go over the bid threshold, which for us is 29,500. So if we need to go over that, then we need to go to the board unless we have, authority by the board to just pay the claim. I talked to the board, they set an amount, but this is how we're proceeding. And that's the reason why we're all, having this conversation today, to see what can be done to support our workers' comp program.
I understand not wanting to give out hundreds of thousands, but can we up the reserve authority to like 50, something that might cover more? 10 is comparatively, it's pretty low compared to what we would normally see.
We can always take that under consideration.
Be great. Because the only other thing I do want to point out too, if there are the penalties that are assessed, they are the responsibility of the district. So like in this scenario where there would be, I'm concerned, because if the idea is to reduce cost, I think doing it this way, you're probably looking at more of a situation where costs will increase. I understand the function, but it's just the functionality with the TPA relationship. So that's why I felt it was kind of urgent to bring forward.
Okay. The board will take under consideration, your requests, not necessarily at this venture, but then they'll come back and say what they decide. We hear you, and we understand, what the law says about it, and that we have to pay, and we consider all those things. Thank you very much.
Sure. And if there's anything else I can provide, please let me know. I'd be happy to do so.
All right,
Thank you.
that's it for me. Unless anyone has any questions.
Does anybody have any more questions? Not at this time. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
Thank
gentlemen
you.
and ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, going forward, our discussion items. Number 1, overnight out-of-state field trip request, Washington, DC. Celia Charbonneau. Are you on? I believe you're online.
Yes, I'm okay. Yes, I am a teacher at West Middle School, and we are planning our annual Washington DC trip. This time it's with Gettysburg, and we have about 49 students and parents come with us. The kids see Arlington, Gettysburg, all the memorials, the museums, the Capitol building. We take pictures in front of the White House. The cost is 1,150, and that includes everything, including their food, the hotel, the bus ride, and it also includes a full refund program. So in case anybody cancels up until the day we leave, the minute we leave, they can get their money back, minus the deposit.
That's pretty generous the day that you leave.
Any questions?
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, overnight out-of-state conference request, Atlanta, Georgia, Jason Gribble.
Good evening. Little background information on this. In March of last year, RISA applied for a grant to secure funding for Wayne County to develop an aviation and aeronautics program. This initiative was introduced to Mr. Wager at a Wayne County Superintendent's meeting. Naturally, we are interested in being one of the host schools, given our proximity to the metro airport and our status as a current CTE and host school in our area. Since then, we participated in several meetings with Wayne RISA, Wayne County Community College District, MIAT, corporate partners, and other interesting school districts and CTE programs. Through this process, Taylor has emerged as preferred location to serve as one of these 3 host districts in Wayne County for the aviation aeronautics program. To better understand the needs and development of such a program, RISA is coordinating a site visit to schools already offering similar programs. Approximately 20 Wayne County administrators will be participating in this trip, which includes attending the AOPA symposium to introduce us to the curriculum that would be involved in this. We are also going to be visiting 2 other schools that have the CTE aviation aeronautics program while we're down there, one of them being in Alabama. Details of the trip and the agenda are in your packet. And this is the email should have came from the Deputy Superintendent, Beth Gonzalez from Wayne RISA. Funding wise, we've submitted a request for funding to the MDE, to our MDE title coordinator for approval under Title II and Title IV funding. Through conversations with Mr. Wager and myself, we also have allocated funds within our own budgets to be able to provide professional development for the cover of this cost as well. And knowing that our vision statement is being the innovative destination for the district, definitely fits with underneath that scope of our vision statement. Are there any questions in regards to heading down to see what we can do about getting aviation program here at Taylor?
Was Carly Bernard offered this trip too, or?
Pardon?
Carly Bernard, was she offered the principal?
She's been going to the meetings as well, but she can't go up on those days.
She couldn't go to the meeting. Okay. But she was offered to go.
Pardon?
She was offered to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're hoping that these titles will cover this. If not, there's funds coming from somewhere else.
I don't, Mr. Wager's in our.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but in the superintendent's office budget, we do have so much money that is set aside for professional development in that. When we reviewed where our budget was last year, we cut that back because we spent nowhere near what was in my budget. And so far with what we spent, there would be room to pay for as well if need be.
Obviously, we're going to try to use title funds to purchase it first, but if not, we do have coverage for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, number 3, past survey renewal, Emily Graham.
Good evening. I'm asking the board to renew the Renaissance, learning quote for the past student surveys for grades K through 12. This survey measures students' perceptions regarding 3 major areas: their curriculum readiness and access, student perceptions surrounding work habits and the importance of attendance, and their relationship with peers and staff in our schools. Teachers and administrators use the survey results to surface student needs that may need to address in our MTSS and our MyKit planning. The purchase cost is $51,970, and this will be funded by 31A funds.
This is something that we currently have. We're just renewing it.
We're renewing it, correct. We used it last year. Any questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. Advanced authorization to hire, Mr. Wager.
So yeah, this is one we have been periodically coming back to. And this is something that we are continuing to see such turnover in our instructional staff and with our support staffs. So we are again coming and asking for that advance authorization to hire, not for administrative positions, but for those particular ones within the TFT and within 26M. This allows us to get people into, whether it's a bus driving role, a parapro role, whether it is a teacher in front of kids. It gives us a lot more timeliness to make sure that those needs are covered, where we can get somebody started pretty quickly and then not have that delay till we get to a board meeting. We have found that sometimes those delays are causing people to reconsider and take another job offer because we can't quite get them in place as quick as can be. One of the things we also discovered today is that, there was a survey that kind of went out and we had heard back from a lot of other districts. And this seems to be the norm that a lot of districts are going to right now, that particularly when it comes to support and instructional staff, that they are using advanced authorization to get people into those needed positions as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, the next item up is policy updates, revisions, the first reading.
So last week, we had a policy committee meeting and we talked about the needs for adjustments to what we currently have in policy for Title IX. And Title IX is a civil rights law that went into effect in 1972. It is states that in the education realm, that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. How that has been interpreted, the guidelines that have been put in place have changed various times in history since 1972. The latest round of those regulations came out in 2024, and it expanded what the scope of sex discrimination meant to include discrimination on the basis of sex stereotypes, sex characteristics, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, and gender identity. And since then, though, those regulations came out and several court cases were filed, and there have been several different rulings that have come out. One of the ones that particularly affects the Taylor School District is Kansas versus the U.S. Department of Education. And where this kind of affects us as the groups that filed this lawsuit include Young America's Foundation, Female Athletes United, and Moms for Liberty. So any of those organizations who have children in various schools, those schools now end up as an injunction to stop the regulations that went through in 2024. And Taylor High School is one of those locations that has been named as part of that injunction. So we are kind of living in a spot where our policy isn't quite up to date. And we also have a situation where Taylor High School has to remain on the old policy until that resolves itself. So we're in a unique spot that most of our buildings can proceed with the new regulations, but one of them currently cannot. So with that in mind, what we're bringing forward as our suggested change to policy is we're trying to put a little flexibility in here to make sure we're meeting the legal requirements that are part of the 2024 regulations. And we are also trying to make sure that we are meeting the legal requirements of the injunction that is in place that affects Taylor High School. So what we are proposing for our policy changes to our language, excuse me, in Board Policy 2266, we are recommending a change to state the United States Department of Education has released guidance that the 2020 Title IX regulations will be utilized for complaints of sex discrimination involving those schools included on a federal injunction list prohibiting the United States Department of Education's enforcement of the 2024 Title IX regulations. The United States Department of Education's regulations and guidelines concerning Title IX are currently subject to ongoing litigation and subject to monitoring that could impact the policy terms contained herein. If any provision of this policy or any application of this policy shall be found to be contrary to law, then such provision or application shall not be deemed valid and subsisting except to the extent permitted by law, but all other provisions or applications shall continue to be in full force and effect. Essentially, this policy language is giving us the flexibility to meet the needs of both of these situations. And quite honestly, as we just went through an election last night, and we're going to see an administration change at the federal level, there is a good chance that these regulations could change again in the future as well. So it does behoove us to have something that is flexible. In our administrative regulations, what we set behind the scenes and how we handle such Title IX claims, we would then spell out how we are going through and which of the regulations we are following for which buildings. But this language here, at least in policy, gives us that flexibility piece going forward. We did have one other policy that has to be adjusted in the same regard, and that is Board Policy 2264. And Board Policy 2264 also governs complaints of sex discrimination involving all portions of district that are not included on a federal injunction list, prohibiting the United States Department of Education's enforcement of the 2024 regulations. This includes, but is not limited to, central offices, maintenance facilities, and other schools not found on the injunction lists. The United States Department of Education's regulations and guidelines concerning Title IX are currently subject to ongoing litigation and subject to monitoring that could impact the policy terms contained herein. If any provision of this policy or any application of this policy shall be found to be contrary to law, then such provision or application shall not be deemed valid and subsisting except to the extent permitted by law, but all other provisions or applications shall continue to be in full force and effect. Again, giving us that flexibility piece as we navigate both these court rulings and, like I said, any kind of future changes that could be on the horizon.
Thank you, Mr. Wager. Does anybody have any comments, questions?
Just a quick question. So we're just adding in the green portion? We're not removing all the crossed out part?
We would be removing out the crossed off part, but a lot of that crossed off part is what we're going to be doing in the admin regulations at this point. So they would exist in how we are doing it in practice, but the green part is what we're inserting for the coverage for the policy piece.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Number 6, action items. Number 1, overnight out-of-state field trip request, Washington, DC, policy 2340 and policy 8640. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the following overnight out-of-state field trip request. West Middle School, Washington, DC, May 19th through the 23rd, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Shufelt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt?
Yes.
Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Block is a yes. Mr. Heath?
Yes.
That motion passes, carries 5-0. Number 2, overnight conference request, AOPA Foundation High School STEM Symposium, policy 6550. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the overnight conference request for Jason Gribble to attend the AOPA Foundation High School STEM Symposium in Atlanta, Georgia, November 17th through 20th, 2024. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heath. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt?
Yes.
Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Block is a yes. Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
That motion carries 5-0. Number 3, pass survey renewal. Policy 6320. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the software licenses that support the instructional program of the Taylor School District not to exceed $51,970. Funding for the software will be paid out of 31A. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Shufelt. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Mr. Morris.
yes.
No, that
Sorry.
wasn't a, okay, Mrs. Thomas is absent, Mrs. Shufelt.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Black is a yes, Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, that motion is carried 5-0. Number 4, advanced authorization to hire policy 3120. It is recommended the Board of Education approve advanced authorization to hire non-administrative vacant positions in TFT and 26 MTSSSA. Individuals hired under the advanced authorization will be placed on the next regular board meeting agenda. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Thomas. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Mr. Morris. Mrs. Shufelt. Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Black is a yes. Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
yes.
Mr. Thomas. Mrs. Thomas is absent. That motion has carried 5-0. Number 7, superintendent report, Mr. Wager.
All right, good evening, everybody. I have two things that I just wanted to mention really quickly. The first is regarding our Graduation Alliance partnership. So we started this last year, we got the approval. And at this point, what we put Graduation Alliance in was to meet a gap that we were missing with students who may have already dropped out, disappeared, basically fallen off our rolls, but never finished, never completed and got that diploma. So Graduation Alliance, we entered into a partnership with them and we gave them essentially the list of every student who didn't quite get across that finish line, but we had no accounting for, and they were no longer within our school district. We also put this in place as that if there were particular students who were struggling with either how they were performing in Taylor High School or even in our virtual learning program, TVLA, there was an opportunity for a set number of students to possibly take advantage of this as well. At this point, we have 54 active students within Graduation Alliance. The vast majority, I would say 80% of them, are ones that we have recovered that we're not going to school anywhere at this point. So we're talking about people who may be 20 years old, 19 years old. I do it all the time. I call them kids, but in reality, many of them are adults. And it's great to see them back and see them doing their best to come back and complete and get that diploma. What I am proud to say at this point is that we should, by the end of the month, be expecting our first 2, and we only started this, like I say, less than a year. We've had this program in place, but we should have our first 2 complete their diplomas by the end of this month. So that is fantastic news. It's a great thing that we've been able to provide to our community. And again, I want to say kids, but to these adults, to these students, this ability to still get what they need to be successful in life. The other thing I wanted to say, I am proud to say, I know every single board meeting since August, I have talked about the Wayne County and RESA enhancement millage renewal. And that did pass last night. And so that is a great benefit to us as a school district, as I've said all along, depending on the year and what has fluctuated, but typically $1.5 million to $2 million that we can use for our programming costs and our needs here at the Taylor School District. So I'm very, very happy and thank everyone for going out and supporting that last night.
Okay, so what's the age again for the Alliance?
Technically, like, if we wanted to, we could, you can go down to even as low as I'd say around 8th grade, but we're not doing that as current. It's mainly, like I said, we've been trying to do recovery, and the max age is, I want to say around like 26, is that where we're at? Yeah.
Is it 26? Okay. That was in my head, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and we've even had a unique opportunity. Graduation Alliance has come to us and they said, you know, there are several districts around us that do not use something like Graduation Alliance. So they were actually reaching out and saying, we know we have kids and there we go with the kids again. We know we have people in other districts who may want to take advantage of this opportunity. So they were looking for those that already use Graduation Alliance and saying, could we steer some, even though they weren't people who left Taylor schools, maybe they left in one of our neighboring districts, but would we be willing to take some on? So we are doing a trial basis with them where we will take 10 other students on and try to help them get across that finish line as well.
Okay, that's a success story. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, we will go on to number 8, our consent agenda, policy 166.1 and policy 6470. Number 1, minutes from the committee of the whole meeting of October 16th, 2024. Number 2, minutes from the regular board meeting of October 16th, 2024. Number 3, minutes from the special board meeting of October 24th, 2024. Number 4, consolidated items, payment of current bills, certified, non-certified, and administrative reports. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Black is a yes. Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt.
Yes.
It carries 5-0. Number 9, items scheduled for next agenda, Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. We have good news on the agenda and also, is it a presentation?
So I'm excited that we put this in here, for my student advisory group, we talked about it at our last meeting, we're gonna talk about it in our next meeting next week. But essentially, I am asking them to come and report out the work we are doing as part of that team, as a regular item that we have in the board agenda so that you get feedback exactly of where we're going with our student leadership.
Okay, so those are our 2 items on the agenda as of right now. Number 10, public comment, policy 167.3. Okay, thank you for all who are able to be with us in person and online tonight. We understand the importance of continuing to keep you all informed and provide an opportunity for you to be heard. Tonight's audience participation will be for all who wish to speak, whether it be in person or online. We will begin with those in person. If you would like to address the board, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. After all those in person have had the opportunity to speak, that opportunity will be given to those online. Please take into consideration common courtesy and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. We will provide and assist with timekeeping so that each speaker will be able to monitor their own time and know when to conclude, so all who wish to speak will have an equal opportunity to do so. If there are any questions at this meeting or by some other avenue, Superintendent Michael Wager or his designee will work on getting those answers in a timely fashion. We will start with those in person. No, Tom? Okay. Now, is there anyone online? There's no one online either. Okay. All right. We will adjourn to closed session. Number 11 on the agenda. Policy 137.2 pursuant to Michigan's Open Meetings Act, being Public Act 267 of 1976. And as amended, I move the board convene in closed session pursuant to 8H, material exempt from disclosure by the state or federal statutes. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Ms. Black is a yes. Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt.
Yes.
Mr. Wright is also absent. We will convene in closed session at 7:14 p.m. Okay, we're returning from closed session at 9:04 p.m. And there is action after closed session. Okay, motion to approve the reinstatement panel's recommendation for student number 01-11062024. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Shufelt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
No.
Okay, Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt.
Yes.
Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Block is a yes. The motion carries 4-1. Student reinstatement number 2. Motion to approve the reinstatement panel's recommendation for student number 02-1106-2024. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Shufelt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Block is a yes. Mr. Heath,
Yes.
it passes 4-1. So the motion carries. Number 3. Motion to provide authority to settle workers' comp number 01-1106-2024 in an amount not to exceed $82,500. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Heath. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris. Okay, Mrs. Thomas is absent. Or Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Shufelt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Block is a yes. Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. All right, the next thing on the agenda, board member comments.
I'd just like to say congratulations to all the newly elected board members.
Thank you, Mr. Heath.
Mhm.
I would like to tell our board member, who is still a board member and unfortunately not a state representative, that there have been lots of people who have lost a first election. He's won 2 already. But one of those people was Abraham Lincoln. So there's always tomorrow.
Yep.
Any other comments? There is a foundation fundraiser coming up on the 16th, dueling pianos. And we were all invited to the 26M Christmas party, everyone. We got that flyer here. If you can make it, it's a fun event. I know in the past the Thomases have been there. And did you get to make it last year, Stephanie?
Yes.
Yep, I went once. It's a nice to do. Tom's not here anymore for us to say, hey, but you know, and they do a nice job on it and it's a nice way to spend some holiday time. So, and then there's the last chance to buy a t-shirt if you haven't done it yet. So, and I got soup from the soup sale. I want to mention this. The kids are doing ethnic lunches now. First one was German. That was November 1st. But I believe the next one coming up is the 14th, 15th.
Yeah.
Soul food. Soul food. So, and then after that, there's other ones and you can look them up on their website, and it's from 11:50 to 1 p.m. on the days that they have special meals. So, all right, if you can make that, please do so. I love the tomato soup. So, all right, anybody else? Nobody's got anything? You want to go home? Huh. Okay, is there a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Okay, only one of you can motion. So who was first? Daryl? Okay. Stephanie, were you second?
Yes.
Sure.
I think, sure. Okay, Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas is absent. Mrs. Shufelt? Mr. Wright is absent. Ms. Black is a yes. Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Board of Education, regular board meeting for November 2024 is adjourned at 9:10 PM. Have a good night, everyone, and thanks for joining us if you're still here.